Public policy polling asked some interesting questions of Trump voters, and the responses are going to absolutely depress you. So let's start light here. Just give you a little sprinkle, give you a little taste of what's going on. They asked Trump voters, hey, would you support invading Mexico? Think about that question. That's ridiculous. Would you support invading Mexico? So you're thinking, look, okay, even among Trump voters, what are we talking about here? I mean, 1 out of every 100 people would be a ridiculously high number. Invade Mexico for what? The number is 14%. So it's more than 1 out of 10 people that say, yeah, let's invade Mexico. Why? Because they got to pay for the wall now. You're going to invade them to make them pay for the wall. Like, that 14% of Trump voters, they're just openly embracing the idea that, yeah, we're the bully. We don't care. That's our whole point. We voted for the high school bully, and we like being the high school bully. Sorry. Okay, but that's just a little appetizer for you. Next, what percentage of Trump voters support a ban on Muslims in the U.S.? 41%. That's a devastating number. Almost half. Nearly half of Trump voters say, yeah, let's ban Muslims from the U.S. Look, I don't know what else you want me to call you. That is bigoted. To just say, yeah, ban them because they're Muslims. But there's 1.6 billion Muslims, and there's so many different schools of thought within Islam. You know, there's Sunni Islam, there's Shia Islam, there's Sufi, there's Ahmadi, there's all these different schools of thought, or Ahmadiyya. They don't care about looking at the differences between the ideologies, and they also don't care about doing the basic intellectual exercise of, even if they're part of a more conservative school of Islamic thought, you know, maybe there's a chance that they just have those beliefs and they harbor them personally, and they're not trying to, you know, implement a theocracy and take over the country. And by the way, Muslims are less than 1% of the U.S. population, as if that's a threat anyway. So, yeah, when you're willing to say, because ISIS and Al-Qaeda exists, I want to ban all Muslims from coming to the U.S., then you are painting with a broad brush, and what you are saying is, close enough. Oh, you're an 8-year-old Syrian girl who's just trying to not get bombed? We're going to ban you from the country because, I don't know, you're close enough. You share religion with ISIS and Al-Qaeda, even if your interpretation is totally different, and I don't care. So you're a child, you're a female, you're an old man, you're deeply secular, but you're Muslim. I don't care. I just want to ban you. 41% of Trump voters. Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. There's a healthy percentage of Trump voters who kind of overlooked all that other garbage because they said, hey, I think he's going to be better on the economy and jobs, and I lost my job in this factory town, and Hillary loved outsourcing and all these things. So yes, a lot of the people are genuine economic victims who supported Trump. But that doesn't mean the so-called deplorables don't exist. Oh, they certainly do. Because what other word can you use to describe somebody who thinks like that? I don't know, close enough to ISIS. I want to ban you from the country. Okay, then just admit, if you want to ban Muslims, you don't believe in freedom of religion. Even though it's in the First fucking Amendment, it's in the Constitution that you claim to believe in, you don't believe in it. All right, next one. 46% say there should be a White History Month. So nearly half. This one I just find funny, if anything, because people try to make, they do a false equivalence on this one. So they just say, well, look, if there's Black History Month, why not a White History Month? Yeah, so, in Turkey, for example, if you have, let's just make it up here, a Kurdish month, because the Kurdish people are historically oppressed, why not a Turkish month? Why not a Turkish History Month in Turkey? Well, because if you have people marching in the streets of Turkey talking about Turkish pride, what usually follows that? That was the oppression of Kurds. That was the genocide of Armenians. So, yeah, Turkish pride in Turkey is very different than Turkish pride if it's a minority community in the U.S. or elsewhere. By the same token, I know it's an extreme example, but it's an example nonetheless. If you're in Germany and they have a Jewish pride parade, people go, oh, that makes sense. You were fucking slaughtered here. So you're a minority community that's historically faced oppression, and you're fighting back against it, and you're saying Jewish pride. If there was a Germanic pride parade in Germany, what would that be? That'd be a far-right parade, because you're in the minority already. So there's a difference between the minority and the majority doing it. I know that that's a distinction that a lot of people don't buy, but that's the nature of reality. Like, historically, when people say white pride in the U.S., what kind of a movement are they? Are they one fighting for equality and justice, or have white pride movements historically in the U.S. been tied to white supremacy? Now flip the script. Black pride in the USA, what has that been tied to historically? It's been tied to an attempt at a fight for fucking equality, because they were a historically oppressed community. So there's a difference. I know that, people, they don't want to look at the nuances of it and look at the history of it, and they just want to say, it's got to be equal, white pride, black pride, and that's it. But why don't you actually dive into the details of it and stop being purposefully obtuse on this point? So, again, I think these people are just silly. I don't necessarily think they're bad people for there should be a white history month. It's like when people say, there should be a white history channel, because there's a black or a white entertainment channel, because there's a black entertainment channel. And it's like, okay, well, first of all, over 90% of the other channels are overwhelmingly white. Second of all, have you seen the country music channel? Have you seen the hunting channel? Have you seen the fishing channel? Pretty sure it's as white can be. So it's this faux feeling of oppression that's not really there. And people who are willing to be objective about it, I think, see that. But people who can't wait to play the victim, I think, harp away on, why isn't there a White History Month? You know why, but you're not allowing yourself to reason beyond it. There wasn't a time in the U.S. when white people were slaves. There wasn't a time in the U.S. when there was segregation against white people and white people were second-class citizens. There wasn't an anti-white Jim Crow. The history is the exact opposite. So maybe it makes sense to have a month dedicated to recognizing the oppression that a minority community felt. That's not a crazy idea, guys. If you really think that's a crazy idea, I don't know, how to further communicate this. I'm being as clear as possible as to why it's not a crazy idea. All right, more. 51% say Trump should be able to overturn judges that he disagrees with. Okay, so now we're just getting into 51% of Trump voters are just flat out authoritarian. No gray area about it, nothing up in the air, not a matter of opinion. 51% say Trump should be able to override judges he disagrees with. So you don't believe in checks and balances. You don't believe in the American way. You don't believe in an independent judiciary. You don't believe in judicial review to check the constitutionality of actions taken by the executive branch. You just believe in a unitary executive. You believe in an authoritarian leader as long as you get to pick the authoritarian leader. So you think if I get my guy in there, well, then everybody needs to step the fuck aside and there should be no opposition to my guy. Well, no, that's not the way our system works. And funny how you had the exact opposite opinion under Obama. When Obama was in power, it was anything and everything is legitimate to block him, whether it's the judiciary or otherwise. But now judiciary shouldn't even exist. Because we think we get somebody in power and then they're allowed to be a dictator, they're allowed to be a tyrant, they're allowed to be a fascist leader. 51% say Trump should just be able to ignore the judiciary. That's insane. Okay, more. The Bowling Green Massacre is why we need Trump's immigration order. By the way, the Bowling Green Massacre is something that Kellyanne Conway mentioned multiple times to cite why we need to basically ban refugees and immigrants from these 7 nations that Trump picked. It didn't actually happen. There wasn't a Bowling Green Massacre. There was, I think, an attempted attack that was thwarted. But she cites the Bowling Green Massacre, and 51% of Trump supporters say this is why we need an immigration order, why we need Trump's immigration order to ban people from 7 different countries. So you're citing evidence that doesn't exist to support a ban from 7 different countries, immigrants and refugees from 7 different countries. That's fucking crazy. By the way, most of those 7 countries we're bombing. How moral. Human rights leader of the world, world police. We bomb the shit out of you, and then when you try to escape to survive, we ban you from coming here. Dude, case-by-case basis, individual, vet on a case-by-case basis. And we already have the most rigid, strict vetting process in the world. It takes over a year to get in here on average. There's biometric screening. There's a bunch of different government organizations that are involved in it. I think over a dozen different government agencies that are involved in vetting people. So vet on a case-by-case basis. They say, no, fuck that. We're just going to ban people, broadly speaking, from 7 different countries. Okay, more. 55% of Trump voters say millions of people voted illegally in 2016. 55%. That is just completely wrong, factually not true. It's as conspiracy theory-esque of a conspiracy theory as you could ever get. There's zero evidence. There were, you know where a lot of people got this idea from? Memes. There were memes online where they showed buses. And they go, these are the illegals being bussed in to vote. Yeah. Voter fraud. Yeah. But that didn't happen. They were just pictures of buses. And then people slapped on, these are the illegals. The picture was taken like last week. Yeah. The fact that 55% of his voters believe that is insane. You know how insane that is? It's as insane as what was the number on Acorn? Like 40% or over 40% of Romney voters said Acorn stole the election for Obama in 2012. Meanwhile, Acorn didn't even exist anymore at the point. They didn't exist anymore. They weren't around. But almost half of the Romney voters said, yeah, no, Acorn stole it for Obama. This is the same kind of shit. You see something on a far, far right-wing blog that's utter nonsense. And by the way, if there was some sort of attempt here, they fucking failed miserably now, didn't they? Because Trump won. But they can't help themselves. Even when Trump wins, they're like, yeah, but 98% of the population voted for him. So, Hillary still stole it, even though he's president. Yeah. They're so stupid. They find a personality and they latch onto it. That's what this is. I was noticing that the other day. I watched a little bit of the Alex Jones, Joe Rogan podcast. And it's so many views. There's almost 3 million views already. And it's so many likes on the video. And it scares me that many people can't see through Alex Jones' bullshit. And as Alex Jones says, oh, I'm not here to carry water for Trump. Then he goes on to carry water for Trump. And you could tell that he just latched on to a personality and he likes the guy. And he keeps talking about how he's the real deal and he's against the establishment and he's draining the swamp and he's against the elites. Alex, he picked fucking Goldman Sachs Steve Mnuchin for Treasury Secretary. If Hillary picked Goldman Sachs for Treasury Secretary, you would have said she's the most corrupt person in human history. And you would have been right. But Trump campaigned against that and then gets in there and is like, yeah, Goldman Sachs for Treasury Secretary. A fast food CEO, Puzder, for Labor Secretary. The guy doesn't even believe in the minimum wage. The guy wants to say he wants to move away from unions completely and move towards automation instead of workers. Isn't that one of your fucking New World Order conspiracies? That they're trying to stop workers and have machines replace you, and then you're gonna be even more poor. Puzder admits he wants to do that. And you're nowhere to be found. You don't oppose him. You latch on to the Trump administration. For fuck's sake, man, the conspiracy's right in front of you. What more do you need? He says he's not going to privatize Social Security and Medicare, and then he appoints people who are known privatizers to those positions? Alex, what the fuck, man? But it's just latch onto the personality. Same thing with these people. Latch onto the personality. Latch onto the personality. I like Trump. I like him. It's just how he talks makes me feel good, makes my feelings feel special. Or they call all these guys call the liberals snowflakes with your feelings. You voted for Trump because you thought he was anti-establishment. Then he picks fucking Goldman Sachs for Treasury Secretary. And you still defend him? Who's the fucking snowflake here? You're picking personality over policy, you moron. Okay, and the final one. 82% of Trump's voters say he's more credible than the New York Times. Look, man, believe me, I'm no fan of establishment media. I'm not a big fan of the New York Times. They've gotten many stories wrong. They got many super important stories wrong. There's no denying that. But by and large, is the New York Times significantly more credible than fucking Donald Trump? Yeah, you bet your ass they are. And 82% of his voters say, no, fake news. Everything is fake news. If it's against me. He literally tweeted, any negative polls are fake news. Any negative polls are fake news. So the American people agree with you on everything by definition, even things you haven't done yet in the future. You know you can read the minds of the people in the future. You got a fucking crystal ball, dipshit. You're such a disgusting liar. That's what you are. And people are following you in lockstep. 82% fake news. Everything New York Times says fake news. Trump is always more credible than the New York Times. They've latched on to their daddy figure. That's all this is, and these numbers show it.